Myth or fact, people with HD have less of a chance of getting cancer?
That's a super question, and it seems to be tending toward fact, although I don't think we're there yet. But that's kind of a question. It's really on the cutting edge of epidemiological studies of Huntington's disease. And the studies that have been done so far actually suggest that there's a decreased frequency of cancer in populations with Huntington's disease. The studies haven't been absolute. There are a lot of issues and problems with them, a lot of variables that have to be looked at that haven't necessarily been looked at. But the bottom line is there's some evidence that people with Huntington's have a decreased risk of cancer. And immediately the questions become, well, is it all cancers or some cancers? And it may well be that it's only specific cancers. For example, in reviewing the literature, I noticed one that got picked out as a possible decreased frequency is prostate cancer. But I worry about that because if you think about the population and the general population that's at risk for prostate cancer, it's older people. It's older men, mostly men over the age of 70. And the Huntington's population is a much younger population in general. So you got to take those kinds of factors into consideration. Not sure it has been, but the answer seems to be yes, there is a general decrease. It's not zero. I have people with Huntington's who have died with cancer, but I must admit that when I look over all the people I've seen with the disease, the number that have had cancer is relatively small. I'd be interested in what Stacy and Terry have to say about that, but I can't remember a lot of people with Huntington's that I've seen who actually had cancer, only a few.
No, I agree, Tom. I've had through the years a handful of patients who've had cancer. And the two things that I wanted to comment on there is even, like I said, that like Dr. Bird said, there's a trend to that being truthful. That doesn't mean that people with Huntington's should forego routine recommended cancer screenings. You should still do that because you don't know if you'd fall into that category or not. So please, if you're able to get your loved one in, do the routine cancer screening, especially if there's a family history, in addition to the Huntington's, a family history of cancer. The other thing that crosses my mind about that part is longevity a factor in there, because incidences of cancer increases, you get older, and the typical lifespan in terms of Huntington's is a little shorter than the general population. I wonder about that being a factor too, but don't forego cancer screening.
I agree with all of that. I would hope that the studies that have published data saying that the trend looks like there's a lower incidence of cancer did take age and longevity and that into factor. Otherwise, it's not a particularly good study. Yeah, just kind of my gestalt on that is I've also seen the same, just a handful of cancer patients and HD patients at the same time.